Thanks. You know, we've been hearing some really incredible survivor stories over the past few weeks, and today is no exception. Our next guest is a stroke survivor, and at just 24 years old, this professional figure skater from Woburn could never have imagined what happened to her. Joining me this morning is Alexandra. This is Alexandra Murphy, and you're here because you want to raise awareness about strokes. You're so young. I would never look at you and think, here's a woman who had a stroke, but you did, and it was only in November.
Yep, it was in November 6th, and I actually had the stroke as I was getting off the ice.
Because you're a professional figure skater, and you had this contract with a cruise ship.
Yep.
So, for people who don't know, there are some cruise ships that actually have these skate rings. And so you get off afterwards, and you felt a little cold. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was cold, and I kind of thought, my hands started to go tingly and numb, and I thought, oh, I'm just chilly. The weather inside the rink, it's actually cold. And so I went to untie my skates, and I realized I can't really do it very well. So I said, okay, I'll hang up my costume. I went to hang up my costume, and I realized I couldn't lift my arm to hang up the costume onto the rack. So I went into the bathroom, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I didn't recognize who I was.
You physically didn't understand that you knew that it was you.
I knew that I was looking at myself in a mirror, but I didn't know that I was myself. It's so hard to describe if you haven't had a stroke.
Yeah, it's a kind of out-of-body experience.
Oh, exactly. And so I couldn't feel my hand at that point, and I started to bang my hand on the sink, and I couldn't feel it, started to not be able to feel my right foot, but I thought, okay, it's from my skate. Then my face started to droop. I turned around, and one of my coworkers came in, and they looked at me, and I couldn't speak.
So here you are on this floating island. The doctors on board have identified there's a real problem here. We need to get her off of this ship and into a hospital somewhere. So what happened?
So that night I stayed overnight, and they have a hospital ward on the ship, and I wasn't speaking for about 5 hours, and they had given me a shot of Valium. So the Valium eventually broke up the blood clot, thank God, and the next morning at 7 in the morning, they medically evacuated me off the ship in Tenerife, the Canary Islands. So I went to the hospital there, and they said to me, you know, you can't get back on the ship. That's enough. We have to figure out what's wrong with you. We don't know if it's a stroke. We don't know if it's MS. We don't know if it's a brain tumor.
Finally, they did realize that it was a stroke, and you said it was surprising because since you compete and perform at such a high level, of course your EKG isn't going to show any stress whatsoever.
I passed everything.
So how did they find out that you actually had a hole in your heart?
Eventually, I did all these tests. I did the EKGs. I did an angiogram, all these invasive tests, and the last one, it's called a TEE, a transesophageal echo. It's a camera. They put the scope down your throat, and they found in the back of my heart I had a hole. And that was the cause of the stroke.
So you needed a surgery very quickly, but there was a problem because you had signed up, you had been enlisted for Holland's version of Dancing on Ice. And so you had, between November and December, a very tight window. Your doctors must have told you you were crazy when you told them you were going to be competing.
They said, you know, this is so serious that you have to pick your priorities. And I said, well, I just got given an amazing opportunity to go to this TV show. Either we do the surgery now, or I'll come home and have the surgery. And they said, no, you can't come home and have the surgery. We'll fit you in. So 2 days later, I had the surgery.
And we were just looking at some video of you. You guys did great. As a matter of fact, you won the whole thing.
Yeah, we did.
Tell people about your partner, because I thought this was so funny.
Yeah.
Who is he in Holland?
His name is Tony Wachinski, and he is a DJ, but he's their version of like Pauly D from Jersey Shore. And he was about 6'4", and he lost 40 pounds during the show.
He was determined to win this thing with you because of your story. And it was also because of your story that you reached out to Tedy Bruschi.
I did. When I first got back onto the ice, I was really nervous. I was crying a lot. I was really upset. I didn't want to skate because I was afraid, what if the device moves? They put this device in me. It's foreign. I still can feel my heart beating. What if this device moves? And so I reached out to him, and I asked him about it. And he said during his 3 years of playing professional football, it never moved. It's not going to move with you skating.
Yeah, because, of course, he had a stroke
as
well. And what is it that you want people to know? You went through this. I think most people who go through a stroke at your age think, no way, this cannot be a stroke, because I just don't fit the parameters. What do you want people to know about discounting some of the symptoms that you had?
The hardest part about having a stroke is emotional, and a lot of times people, you don't really realize that you're having it. I never would have known I was having a stroke if the doctors didn't tell me. I fought them over and over and over again and said, it's a migraine, it's a headache, I had a panic attack, it was anxiety, or any excuse that I could find, but it was real. It was a real stroke. It was real symptoms, and people my age do have it. And if they can get help fast enough, they can fully recover. I recovered fully. I have no residual effects, nothing.
As a matter of fact, you're going to be skating on a cruise ship again. You leave what, this weekend?
Saturday. I'm back to work.
And who will you be skating for?
Royal Caribbean. I'll be skating for Willie B. Tech Productions, and I'm headed to the Mariner of the Seas in Asia. So
very exciting. We're glad to see you in tip-top shape, and once again taking to the ice, because I know it's your passion. Alexandra Murphy, thanks so much for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it. We'll be right back.